Hi IndyCar fans, it's Martha and I want to welcome you to episode 21 of Cruising 41. And let's talk about what's going on in IndyCar. Not only we're going to be covering what happened during the race in Mid-Ohio, but we're also going to be talking about what has developed so far regarding the silly season, and there's a ton to cover on that regard. So let's go ahead and get started because Mid-Ohio, yay, finally we have a Pato's first win in 2026. This is also his first win since July of 2025 when he won in Toronto. So I am so happy. Vamos Pato, vamos Patricio. And it was a great race. He started second on the grid and he really delivered a commanding win. But also it was a historic win because this is the first time ever that McLaren gets a 1-2 in IndyCar. So let's get a little bit into the details. Pato and Christian Lundgaard, McLaren had a very strong quali, both of them transferring to the Fast Six. And Christian Lundgaard ultimately got the pole with Pato in the front row, just like right next to him. Pato had an uncharacteristic mistake on his quali lap and he was not able to transfer to the top six. We don't say that very often, but hey, he's only human, so he is also entitled to make some mistakes. And then the race came about. It was an uneventful start. And by that I mean just everybody started okay, no issues. It was a great start for David Malukas. There was also a great start from Pato and Kyle Kirkwood. And it is important to keep into context the situation Pato Kirkwood because they are our two top two on the championship fight at the moment. Lap 4, we saw a very fierce competitive racing from Alex Palou and Kirkwood. Again, just, our two championship contenders, which, it was fierce, it was competitive, it was will to will excitement, and you love to see that in a race. Lap 9, that was the first round of pit stops for those who started on the alternate strategy. One of the things that it is, in my opinion, fascinating about IndyCar is that they have the option of starting either on the alternate tires or on the primary tires. Usually there isn't one that it's like the one that everybody uses, and there's always a mix in strategy. So that makes the competition even more interesting, and also the strategies are very, very different. So you never know how it's all going to shake out and what the pecking order will ultimately be. Lap 16, there was a pit stop for Alex Palou, and he was ahead of Kirkwood at the exit of the pit lane. Kirkwood had already pitted earlier than him, so he had warmer tires and he was able to pass him. So this was also critical, not only for position, but like we've been saying, for the championship standing. It's important for Kirkwood to be ahead of Palou and getting as many points to close the gap. Alexander Rossi in the ECR was involved in some tangle with Scott Dixon during the early stages of the race, and as a result he received a penalty for avoidable contact, and that put him behind when it comes to a good result for ECR and the car number 20. Lap 43, Pato was finally able to take the lead from Lundgaard. So one thing I want to point out is that, like I mentioned to you before, I always follow the onboard for Pato, and my opinion and what I observed from his onboard is that he was just very methodically handling this race. He was just not, kind of like going abruptly to try to take the position from Lundgaard. I think he was just pouncing and pouncing, but waiting for the right opportunity to be able to pass him. And he knew his opportunity was going to come about, and it actually did. As I said, lap 43, he was able to pass him. Lundgaard made a mistake, and then Pato capitalized, and he never looked back. So from that point on, he was not only in the front, he was leading the race, but also it was a very commanding drive from him. Lap 64, we had Lundgaard, Rinus VeeKay, and Kyle Kirkwood pitted. VeeKay was, he came out behind Christian and Kyle Kirkwood, and it was a little bit of a shame the way that pit stop kind of translated for him, because he was just having an outstanding race. He was looking very competitive, great performance from not only him but also the Juncos Hollinger team, and it was looking as though he was just going to get ultimately a very good result. Unfortunately, and I don't think it's necessarily something bad that they did in that pit stop for him, but it was so competitive for those three that at the end he was not able, or him and the team, they were not able to capitalize on that. So at the end, the result is, Pato, like I said, winning his first race in 2026. Unbelievable that we are like way past the first half of the season, and this is the first win for Pato. But regardless, it was a very good drive from him, and an awesome result, not only for him personally with the win, but also for a 1-2 historic McLaren finish. Alex Palou, before I move to Alex Palou, Kyle Kirkwood was able to hold on that third position, which is again massive for him to continue to close the gap to Alex Palou and have a real shot at the championship battle with Alex. Alex Palou finished fifth, far from ideal probably for him and Chip Ganassi Racing, but it's good to see a different winner other than Alex Palou winning, every single race. And I touched a little bit about Rinus VeeKay, but I really want to give a big shout out to him. He drove an outstanding race. He performed really at a very high level. And like I mentioned before, at one point of time during the race, it looked as though he could be in the podium, that he could fight perhaps for that third position, even perhaps for second, with Kyle and Christian. But also, as I mentioned, he lost that potential advantage in that last pit stop. David Malukas, who's also part of this championship contention, David Malukas is fourth behind Christian Lundgaard. He finished eighth. He was the best of the Penske. The Penske cars didn't look all together, if you will. I mean, by all together, I mean they didn't look as competitive as you normally would expect from Penske. So you had Malukas finishing eighth, Newgarden finishing ninth, and then Scotty Mack, he finished far behind them. So Penske didn't look all together, but hey, that opens the door for others to capitalize on that and get a competitive advantage, a competitive race, and that's what our McLaren capitalized on that opportunity. This was a green race from start to finish. There were no cautions thrown. There were no issues, no red flags, no big incidents. There were some tangling, there was some impact or some touching, but there wasn't a yellow card, a full caution, nothing that really would give certain strategic advantage to one team versus the other. So the fact that this was an all green race, it also highlights even more, and it's more importantly to commend the great result and the great race that not only Pato did for the win, but also Aero McLaren as a team to achieve this great result and a historic result. So we talked a little bit about what Pato did during the race. I mentioned that, he was very patient. You could see from his board at the beginning, he was just there. He was just waiting for the moment. And even before his pit stop, it didn't look like he was getting anxious or trying to get past or anything. And he also wasn't having like that big of a threat behind him. So he was just there. He was patient. He was strategic, methodical, and but he was right there. And he was positioned strategically to capitalize on any issues that could arise, which, like I said, it did arise. There was an issue, a slight mistake by Christian Lundgaard, and he was able to get advantage of that. He looked very comfortable in the car, which we have not said that at all this season. So, but this time around, he was not struggling. He was calm. He seemed to be completely in control. He didn't look like he was struggling the car like, in other races we've seen. So, of course, this is an outstanding result for Pato, a win in 2026. He has been consistent in his results. I mean, despite one or two races where he had issues and wasn't like top 6, top 10, top 5. But by and large, the 2026 season is being one that he is been having consistent results. That said, this is his first podium too. He's not had a podium in 2026. So I am hoping that this is the start of a lot of good results moving forward. He remains 5th in the championship. He has a deficit of 94 points from Alex Palou, but this win, along with the consistency that he had relative to these results that I was speaking about, hopefully it may be the differentiator for him to get closer and closer in the championship, to Alex Palou in the championship. So we shall see how it all unfolds and shakes out. Kyle Kirkwood, he is, just to give you the sense of how the positions are, Kyle Kirkwood is 56 points behind Alex Palou in the championship. It was a great result. I am so proud of Pato, and he was so happy. And even though this was, like I said, a complete green race, very physical, very hot, he delivered an outstanding drive. Yeah, vamos Pato! So that was the race, but there's been also a lot of noise and a lot of chatter outside just the track, obviously. It all started, the whole, silly season started with, first of all, with Felix Rosenqvist and MSR kind of like announcing that Felix was not going to return to MSR for 2027. And then similarly, Chip Ganassi Racing announced that Sir Scott Dixon, was also not going to be returning to, with the team in 2027. There was a lot of noise and a lot of chatter where exactly they were going to be, landing for 2027. And then there was another announcement that was made, and that was for MSR, and that was regarding Marcus Armstrong. So they announced him as he is staying with MSR for 2027. I think it's a multi-year contract, so it's 2027 and more years, 2027 plus. And he's just going to stay with MSR, which is, I think, a good move for Marcus because he seems to be very comfortable with them. Let's not forget that he was in that last lap battle with Felix Rosenqvist during the Indianapolis 500. He's had a bit of, he's been a little bit unlucky, but he is a very strong competitor. So that is kind of like what, you know, the kind of the chronology of the events. But then now we know, because it had been announced, I think it was announced Monday, that the lineup for 2027 for Aero McLaren is Pato, Felix Rosenqvist, and Scott Dixon. That has a lot of amazing implications. So let's just try to deep dive a little bit into what it is from my standpoint, my point of view. So Brian Hunter-Reay has been announced, and this is just no news, but this is just already had taken place. He is now the technical sporting director for Aero McLaren. We know, and there's been some discussion, open discussion about how Aero McLaren is probably a little bit behind when it comes to development. And if they want to be that team or one of the teams that are always fighting not only for wins, but also for the Drivers' Championship and the Indianapolis 500, there has to be some way to accelerate that development so they can be poised to deliver on that. So now with Scott Dixon joining the team, Scott Dixon has spent his entire IndyCar career with Chip Ganassi Racing. He has so much experience, and he is been in one of the top teams for his entire career. So when you think about what he is going to bring to the table, what he's going to bring to this accelerated development mission, it is just going to be invaluable. He is won championships. He's won the Indianapolis 500. He is a legend and an icon in the sport. And his feedback, his views, his processes that he has learned in such an amazing career that he's had will prove to be a plus, a big plus for the team as it relates to just developing the car, accelerating that development, and trying to get into that winning position. And then you have Felix Rosenqvist, another, Indy 500 or our current Indy 500 winner. And I personally didn't think it was a good idea when he, was let go from Aero McLaren. It's my opinion that he has that Aero McLaren gravitas, that Aero McLaren attitude, and I felt he gelled very well with the team. And when he left, I was just a little puzzled as to why, but it is great to see him coming back. We all know that he has a great relationship with the team, and he has a great relationship with Pato. That's no secret. So, and Tony Kanaan had said in the interview or in the video that he posted that he feels very strongly that when the culture is one where everybody's working together, everybody is happy, everybody has the same kind of attitude towards things, is when the culture is a winning culture. I do agree with that, because also when you have a team that gels and a team that is able to get everyone excited about the potential and what the possibilities are, then everybody immediately gravitates towards trying to give their best in order to achieve that goal. So, and then if you look at it from a higher perspective, more, corporate perspective, I think this was a brilliant move by Zach Brown in putting together this team and what this can mean not only for our McLaren, but also to other categories of McLaren if they're going to start having a certain level of knowledge transfer, especially coming from Scott Dixon. So that is just fascinating. It was great news. I think very highly of Sir Scott Dixon, but of course, who doesn't? He's a legend in the sport, and it is exciting to see that he's going to be joining the team. So things are starting to look very promising for 2027. Obviously, the questions now are what's going to happen with that car number 9, and what's going to happen with the car number, with the other open seat at MSR. And there are a lot of theories about who can end up in those seats and whatnot. There's also a lot of noise surrounding Marcus Ericsson, whether or not he is going to be leaving Andretti and where would he go next. And obviously, the very clear ones is now with Scott Dixon and Fro coming to Air McLaren, where is Christian Lundgaard going and where is Nolan Siegel going? A lot of moving parts. I know there's a lot to digest when it comes to these moves out there, whether Christian Lundgaard will go directly to, Chip Ganassi Racing and or whether it will be someone else. So I would prefer not to get into this speculation and rather just, wait to see how all the dominoes fall, because it's not only about potentially Marcus Ericsson and obviously we know for a fact, like I said, Christian Lundgaard is it's out there in the market. But there are also a lot of other openings that can become available. You cannot underestimate the importance and the appeal of that car number 9 from Chip Ganassi Racing now being open. Will then this trigger someone like Joseph Newgarden to consider going from Penske to Chip Ganassi Racing? I mean, it would, why not, right? I mean, it's a winning team. He is in a winning team, but he can go into into Chip Ganassi Racing with Alex Palou. But, all of that is just really speculation. There's others, like I said, in the mix, and others that are not even currently in a car. Someone like Connor Daly, someone like Callum Islet, for instance, who was with Prema a couple of years ago, and then he found himself when Prema kind of didn't stay in the series and found himself without a seat. So there's also some good talent coming out of Indy Next, and potentially also having to play into this entire silly season and how things will start falling into place. I do want to say that also I think a key part of this domino effect will be Rinus VeeKay. I think he has demonstrated time and time again the kind of talent that he is, what he brings to the table. And I think right now he's with Juncos Hollinger Racing, but I would think that teams will turn his way and look at him as a potential replacement. Where exactly remains to be seen, but again, it's just one of those talented drivers that could be in contention for a top seat. The other one thing I just want to mention real quick, and it has a little bit of a connection to F1, and I think this is a long shot, and so Cadillac F1 is really aiming to have a a US driver eventually in that seat. So there is this promising talent, in my opinion, based on what I've seen so far. His name is Max Taylor. He is currently in his first season with Indy Next. And so it may not be time yet, but he's fourth in the current Indy Next championship. And he's had podiums and he's had good results. So like I said, this is just not immediate. But eventually, I think the path for Max could be, an Indy seat with Andretti, and then a really good solid development program with him, and then perhaps getting him into F2, and then into the Formula One seat. I'm thinking it's a long way, it's not going to be next year or in 2 years, but I just, he's got my eye, and maybe that is a path that Andretti can explore, for an American driver, beyond the Colton Herta potential that they're exploring at the moment. So I'll leave it there. Maybe a little bit of a crazy take, but I'll leave it there. So next we go to Nashville in a couple of weeks' time. There isn't a race this coming weekend. Nashville is a 1.33 mile oval, and oval, Joseph Newgarden, it's definitely a contender. He actually won there last year, and we just know how strong Joseph Newgarden is an oval. So maybe this is another opportunity for him to get a good result. He had a good result already, a win already in 2026. So maybe he can just deliver a good result there. And then Kyle Kirkwood won it in 2023. Colton Herta won it in 2024. It will be interesting. So Kyle Kirkwood is being a winner there. And Kyle Kirkwood is kind of like on a mission to try to reduce those championship points to be able to get to Alex Palou. But of course, Alex Palou now has proved that he can also handle the ovals. So it will be a very interesting race. We shall see how it all develops. Of course, Pato is strong in the ovals as well. So you can never discount Pato. So that's kind of my take, a little bit of an analysis of the silly season and what happened in Mid-Ohio. Again, great result for Pato. Vamos Pato, vamos Patricio. And so proud of him. And anyway, that's it for this time. Please like the video if you like it. Subscribe to the channel. Hype, the channel if that will help me a lot. Leave me comments. Let me know what you think about this silly season. What are your crazy predictions or not so crazy, or what are you hearing? What do you think is gonna happen? I really want to hear from all of you about that. So leave comments here if you like. If not, you can always reach out to me on my socials, and I always put them in here. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks after Nashville. Thank you for listening, and see you then. Bye.